Fellow traders, 'tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on Wednesday, August the 28th. The year's 2025. Let's talk trading. Aim! These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. And as always, make sure you have your risk management in place so you never lose more than you're willing to lose on a single trade or during a single trading session. Aim, what am I talking about? Well, we talk about focus, or I've talked about focus more than once. And we talk about having a trading plan and all these other things. We've talked about, fixing one thing. The thing is, you have to fix the right thing. When you practice, when you trade, you have to make sure you're doing things properly in the proper order. Because sometimes you can be fixing things that really don't need to be fixed in the first place, or you can be bit fiddling, like dinking around with different indicators or something, as opposed to fixing things that are going to put you further ahead or farther ahead. They're going to move you towards your ultimate goal, which in trading is making money. So if for some reason you're not making money right now in trading, you have to look at the reasons why you're not making money and find out the real reason, and then work on it, fix it. You have to aim at the right thing, because if you try to get better at, drawing horizontal lines or loading up squiggly indicators, and you're changing the parameters, one day it's a 20, the next day it's 19, and the day after it's 22, you're trying to fix something, but your aim's off. That's not going to make you money. It's funny. I like to say, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. And today, Victor Wooten puts out these videos, and he was talking about AI and social media and whether or not it was a good thing or bad thing. He says, well, maybe neither, maybe both. It's not social media, it's not AI, because all they are tools. It's how you use them. It's like a hammer. You can tear things down with a hammer, you can build things up using a hammer. So, once again, aim. If you realize for whatever reason you always get in late, then you need to aim at what's going to get you in at the right moment. If you're always getting in early, once again, you have to aim at what's going to make you get in at the right moment. And you have to figure it out. Are you getting in your own way? Chances are probably yes, because I know I do. I realize sometimes I'm what I would call an impulse trader. I see something on the chart, and even though it might not be part of a plan, I get the impulse and I take it, and that's why I get inflected a lot of times. So, for example, right here, I might have the impulse to jump into trade, but that's not really a trade. It's not something that I've pre-planned, and I have to try to mute that or squelch that behavior. So, because for example, here I see a couple things caught my eye real quick right here. That almost looks like a return bar. This one looks like a return bar. This one looks like a return bar. We're dropped below the daily open once again. You can see here, and right now we're right on the edge of the EMA 5 or indicator 2 on M5. Okay, now we just hit it, and then we drop back, and I'm thinking if this thing goes down, that's what we want to do, but that's not my trade. So what I need to do is I need to wait, just sit here and wait to get a flip-flop box, and then have this go negative. that's the trade. But I can find a million reasons, probably, maybe not a million, but I can probably find a few reasons to go short right here because I'm itching to go short. Back here was in the launch pad, that 40, between 40 and 49, and then it just always seems to want to launch up to like 50 or 60 or 65. I mean, there's many. Sometimes I tease wall malls like almost every day, every other day. It's like, man, I should just put that EA on and just let it run. But I don't. If you want to know why, because so many things can go wrong. That's why. If I was sitting here watching, yeah, but to not be there to manage the trade. I mean, if we're talking a micro lot, yeah, then it's no big deal, but it's almost like pointless. If I make 20 pips, that's not even a cup of coffee, and I don't drink coffee, so it's kind of pointless to do. It proves nothing. So, once again, aim. You have to figure out what your weakness is and how to overcome it. So right here, it looks like we could almost get a trade. And I think on the last video, I pointed out something, and a little bit after I closed the video down, it went and hit that target point. But once again, I'm not the oracle. It's just I see these things. And something else you have to keep in mind about trading, and I've probably mentioned it at least once before. You can have the same setup, exact same setup, and one time it can produce a winner and one time it can produce a loser. And so you have to realize that that's just the nature of trading. So right here, if this thing can break this 34.66 line, it looks like we'd be off. We'd be looking at a short because I think these two will turn negative or turn red. And then you've got 1.5 to turn the M15 red. And then you'd have them all in your favor. So I'm just relying on those squigglies not to get me into the trade because that's what the flip-flop box is for. But it's just an indication of whether I should sit on my hands and wait or take the trade. And then possibly when should I get out? Because, there was a lot of flip-flops here, and I've learned to wait on these. Sometimes it's real simple. You can wait for like a round number. Like here, wait for either 70 or 75. And then if you get the signal, say 75, it never hit. So you look around 70 right there. And you see there was a couple of times it didn't hit 75. And you got a couple of magenta dots. You could have taken those short. And now we just had a gap up. Now it was actually possible. See, I was looking for shorts, but right here, that would have been a long trade. And one of the reasons why, because you see it kind of it tested this level, the 64 level a few times, didn't quite get to that open, then it returned. And so, there was about 3 or so pips to be had. And so by waiting, by saying, you know what, this wasn't a short signal, I never got the, everything in alignment, so just wait, which if you're having problems, that's what you have to do, is you have to tell yourself, nope, I don't have everything in alignment, so I can't, my hand is off the mouse. If you have to literally sit on your hands, and I've done that before, because I admit I'm an action junkie. You just want to get in there and make some pips, but that doesn't always work out quite right. So you have to wait. Oh, there we go. Now that would have been a nice trade. And actually, there was a flip-flop right here. That would have been the start of that trade. So right around 65 level. So you'd be up about 6, 7 pips right now. Okay, so we're making new, like we want to make new highs. So I'd like to know from traders out there, if once again, if you want to share it with the world, basically. It looks like we just bounced off the daily open again. And actually, it looks like we bounced off the indicator 2 right there to daily open. Actually, it looks like we were above it for a while. Yes, definitely were. So let's see what happens. So we're away from the indicator 2 by 3.67 pips. See if price probably wants to return to that level. And remember, for each candle, you're going to get a new value. So this number is going to change. So we wait. So I'd really like to know from the traders, what's the one thing that you're going to aim, that you're going to put your aim on to work on to become more profitable and to overcome a weakness to get better. Because if you practice, you got to practice the right things in the right way. I mean, if your technique is bad, it doesn't matter how much you practice. And depending on what you're doing, for example, if you're lifting weights and your technique's bad, you can wind up hurting yourself, injuring yourself. And trading, if your technique's bad, you just wind up losing all your money. So let's see this M30 candle. Let me take a look at it. You can see here, definitely moved from the open up. It covered the previous M30. You can see that covered. This never got covered. This one hasn't been covered. And this one's still moving along. So before I run out of time, as always, I want you to remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.